All right, y'all, we are back here again for another day of daily motivation. So today's daily motivation is going to come from 1 Peter 4, verses 12 and 13, which says here, "Dear friends, don't be surprised when the fiery ordeal comes among you to test you as if something unusual were happening to you. Instead, rejoice as you share in the sufferings of Christ so that you may also rejoice with the great joy when his glory is revealed." All right. We're going to go through sufferings, y'all. I probably mentioned this in previous videos all the time, right? We're going to go through sufferings. We're going to go through trials. We're going to go through all that stuff. Even James talks about this, be blessed when you go under trials, right? So that his glory will be revealed to us, right? Same thing applies here, right? This is the test in your faith. This is the Lord testing you to make sure, are you really saying when you put this, when we put the jersey on, right, we claim that we're on Jesus' side. He puts us through these tests as to say, like, are you really with me, right? Are you really going to rely on me to get you through this, right? Do you have the full faith that I'm going to come through every single time, right? What a beautiful thing, like I love to do is when I'm going through a suffering or a trial or wherever it could be, is just reminiscing back on the past and seeing how the Lord has worked through me, even when I didn't have his jersey on at that time, right? Even when I was back then when I was lukewarm, he was still working on me, right? The spirit of him was still moving in me. He was still taking me out of certain situations that I didn't know what the Holy Spirit was at the time. I didn't know what the Holy Spirit man was at the time. But there still was situations the Holy Spirit took me out of certain situations to not lead me into further temptations or sins or whatever it could be, right? That's what I love to do when I'm going through a trial. A prime example was I got a little bit low on money like this past week, and I was texting my roommates because we were talking about bills and stuff, and I told them like the amount I had at that time, but they were like, "Oh gosh," and I was like, "You know what? I'm not even worried, bro." And then God blessed me the next day, right? It's certain things like you get tested in your faith that you gotta know. It's like, all right, how am I gonna grow my relationship with God today? All right, here's another trial, here's another suffering I'm going through, and how is God's glory gonna be revealed to me through this, right? And that's where we transition 13 when it says, "Instead, rejoice as you share in the sufferings of Christ, so that you also may rejoice with the great joy when his glory is revealed." His glory is revealed through all this stuff. When we get out of these valleys, trials, sufferings, all this stuff, when we get out of the valley and we get to see the full picture of why we went through it,